Alexa, stop.
All right. Well, here we are, folks. We are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, anywhere that we have a channel. And we are talking today, two of my very good friends, Kelly Geary and Farah. We are talking about what it takes really to become a mentor. And we are going to dispel any sort of mystery or talk through just kind of some of the challenges that people face when they're deciding to become a mentor. But brief intro, my name is Alan. I have served on the board of directors, and I am most importantly a mentor with New Pathways for Youth. And I've been connected to the organization for about 8 years. And honestly, the reason we're doing this is because we are in need of mentors. We need people who are answering that call and ready to step up and become mentors to the youth throughout the Phoenix area who need a caring, loving adult in their life. So we want to answer a lot of questions for y'all. People don't know what it takes, so we are here to make sure that you understand that. I would love, Kelly, if you could share a little bit about yourself, tell the audience how you came to know New Pathways and all the good stuff about mentoring.
Absolutely. So Alan is the reason I know about New Pathways. Alan and I know each other through work and through our kind of business backgrounds. And he was the reason that I found out about New Pathways. And he asked me multiple times to consider getting involved. And for me, it was I had to learn more. And Farah absolutely taught me a lot about what it would take to be a mentor. So I've been happily serving as a mentor since April of 2022. And then the rest of my life, like Alan, I have a career that's kind of rooted in recruiting and understanding the power of connection. And that's one of the things I love most about mentoring is that it brings that connection really to that one-on-one kind of transformative relationship as opposed to, just working with people that you're placing in roles. So it's been a great highlight of the last year and a half of my life. So.
Excellent. Yeah, and thank you for answering that call, Kelly. And yeah, so true. I mean, here we are recruiting mentors as two recruiters. So It's going to be a wildly successful event to recruit more mentors.
Yeah.
And then we have the amazing Farah, who is our mentor recruiter at New Pathways for Youth and also a mentor herself. Farah, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you. Well, first off, the amazing Farah, that might be my new superhero name. So thank you very much, Alan. My name is Farah Figner, and I am the mentor recruiter for the Level Up program by New Pathways for Youth. But I'm also a mentor. So my quick backstory is I was in media sales my whole career. So I've worked at TV stations, I've worked in digital media, worked in print, you name it. And I found out about New Pathways for Youth one day when I was cleaning out my inbox, working over at the Arizona Republic, and our publisher at the time, she had sent out an email to all staff promoting this organization. And the call to action was to attend a mentor information session to see if I might be interested in being a mentor. And to be honest with you, I wasn't looking for something to do at that time, but I had been living here for just about a year. I had just bought a place to live here, got settled here in the Valley, and the message just spoke to me. So I went to go check it out. And then a couple of months later, I was matched with my mentee, Marcelino. And he and I just celebrated our 6-year match anniversary a week ago today. So that is really, really special. But I learned so much about this program. I just became so fond of it, and specifically the mission and what the program does for the youth that we serve, that I decided when given the opportunity that I would make a career change of it so that I could put my passion into work and recruit more mentors to match with our kids. So that's my background and how I got involved with New Pathways.
Excellent. Yeah. So how long did you say it was, Farah, that you've now been working at New Pathways?
Funny you ask, because I also just had my 4-year work anniversary on Saturday. So I am 4 years and a couple of days in as an official staff member at New Pathways.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We're so fortunate to have you on this team. So fortunate to have you.
Thank you.
No, and I got to experience, you and I were just talking before we went live. We were just talking about the fact that a very good friend of mine, we won't share his last name, but his first name is John, recently signed up to become a mentor. And he is going through the launch in November.
Yes.
You did such a wonderful job of answering all his questions, which I want to remind everyone here, wherever you're seeing this, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever you are, please ask us questions. Farah is excellent at fielding questions from people who are deciding to become mentors. And the three of us as mentors ourselves can certainly tell you what it's like and what our experience has been. I know it's different for each one of us. Kelly is going through life with her mentee. I'm doing the same, and Farah is doing the same with Marcelino. And each one of us is having a very unique experience because all of these kiddos are unique in their own ways. But we, I think that the interesting thing about New Pathways for Youth, and Farah, I'll love for you to share this, is you're never doing it alone.
Right.
So a lot of people ask, what's the difference between this and other mentoring organizations? And I think that is the most unique characteristic about New Pathways is every mentor and every mentee has a tremendous support network behind them through New Pathways.
Yes, absolutely. That is a really big distinguishing factor. And actually, I want to kind of reel it back just a little bit for anybody who might not be familiar with our feeds and all of the great stories that you and Kelly tell on your LinkedIn and your social media. But for anybody who's not sure about New Pathways and the Level Up program, I'll just give you a quick backstory. So New Pathways for Youth has been in the Phoenix area serving the local community for over 30 years now. And although our name has changed over the years and certain small things have changed over the years, our mission has stayed the same, and that is to make sure that kids who come from extreme poverty and who've experienced at least 3 significant childhood traumas, we make sure that they are given everything that they need in life so that they can lead their lives with joy and purpose, and so that they can feel confident finding a path that works for them. There are a lot of obstacles that our kids are likely to face just because of their situations living in poverty and facing adversity. And our program is very focused on how we can provide healing in a research-informed format and matter. And so what we do for our youth is we provide them with a program that includes matching them with a person that they can count on. So a mentor, somebody who's going to show up and not be judgmental of their situations, but support them as they move forward. And then also we provide personal development curriculum for our youth. So we want to help them by providing tools and practices that they can use to overcome like some self-defeating thoughts and to help them think in a more positive manner. And we create community. So of all of those things, the most important thing that we can provide is a relationship with a caring, stable, and nurturing adult. That's the mentors, right? And so that means that mentors are the most important resource in helping the youth that we serve. So we never throw anybody just off the deep end to go figure it out. We're so intentional in how we go about providing support for our mentors. So there's no shortage of support. Oh, I see.
Yeah, we have a question from Deja, which is a question I know Kelly and I both had, and I know John had last week too, which is how do we find our youth?
Yeah, no, that is an excellent question. And it's one of the questions that is often asked to us right off of the bat. So the youth that we serve, like I said, first off, they all live in poverty. They've all experienced at least 3 major childhood adversities. And primarily they live in areas that are the most low income, high risk areas. So we have a team that actually goes out to the high schools and to the other social service organizations in those areas. And they have great relationships with social workers, with school counselors, and such. And so we are actually out there bringing the program to the youth. And then there's word of mouth. So the way I like to describe it is that we have a lot of siblings, cousins, neighbors, classmates that are in this program because either they see it working for one of their peers or their caregiver might see it working for them and they want the same for their youth. So that's a really great question. And we're very intentional also in making sure that the youth that we bring in are the best fit for us within the capacity of our mentors to mentor and support, and also to make sure that we're the best fit for the youth that's coming in. So we're very, very intentional about how we present ourselves to youth, how we recruit them, enroll them, and support them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so interesting to me, Kelly. I know you had the same experience, but when we were going through the process of being matched and just talking through what do you like to do, Alan? What are your activities outside of work? And I like woodworking, and I like reading, and I like running, and I like sports and things like that. And then the science and the efforts on the New Pathway side to pair me or match me with someone who has similar interests so that we can have a great jumping off point. It doesn't always happen that way. I understand that, but it definitely happened that way for us.
Yeah.
Well, that's funny because it didn't happen that way for me. Like my mentee's like favorite activity is shopping, which would be like my last thing I would do on earth would be to go shopping. But she has taught me a lot about the Christown Mall. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but there's like a big mall there. And so I now know the stores there very well. And, we have enjoyed a lot of the culinary establishments by that mall. So, you learn new things.
Exactly. No, I think one of the things that people struggle with when they're thinking about becoming a mentor, Kelly and I certainly grappled with ourselves. So, Kelly, I'd love for you to share just kind of some of the things that specifically were weighing on you.
Yeah.
When you were deciding.
Yeah. Well, Alan asked me a few times, so it wasn't like one time; it was a few times. And my objections at the beginning were time. I didn't have time. I'm so busy. I'm an entrepreneur. I've got 3 teenagers of my own. Like, I can't do this. I can't do this commitment. It's just too much. It's not right. It's like, I don't have the time. So time for me was something that I had to kind of interrogate that objection that I kept on saying that I had. Because, let's be honest, we all have the same 24 hours every day. Nobody gets 25 and nobody gets 23. And so I needed to really reflect on that objection. Is it really true or not? Because my experience of New Pathways is that the time commitment really isn't that onerous. When you can be an entrepreneur, you can be a business executive, you can have your own family and kids, and you can have a dog that needs to be walked, and you can have all the things and still have the time to invest in this relationship with a mentee. So I just want to make sure that at least that's my experience, right? Like my mentee and I are very intentional about when we get together, and we have things that we like to do. So it's not like this huge chunk of time that I have to plan for. It's been able to be woven into my life easily. So that was my objection number 1, was time. My objection number 2 was the fact that I did have teenagers, and I thought, how's this going to be any different than these 3 teenagers that I already have living in my house with me? I mean, but parenting and mentoring, way different, different galaxies. I mean, not even in the same universe. And I've loved the difference. Mentorship offers me an opportunity to have a non sort of judgmental, in many ways easier relationship with this teenager. I get to be her friend. I get to be just caring for her and supporting her. I don't have to ask her about, all the other things that I ask my own kids about. And it's just been really eye-opening. So that was my other objection, was the fact that I already had teenagers. Like, how's this going to be different? And it's very different.
Yeah. And I think definitely had both of those as well. And the other one that I had personally was we talk about the adverse childhood experiences, the ACEs that these kids have, and just thinking about some of those things, like, whether it's drug addiction or incarceration or anything like that in their home. I didn't experience those sorts of things. I had the upbringing that I had, but I didn't have in my mind anyway, I didn't have the challenges that these kiddos had. So how am I going to really be able to relate to these kiddos? And that to me was like a huge stumbling block or a huge roadblock for me. Like, how do I relate to a kid who went through this? And I think the way I overcame that, the way I just kind of dealt with that, is the curriculum. As soon as before you get matched, you're shown certain things about what it means to work with a youth who comes out of extreme poverty, and just kind of the different thoughts and beliefs and things like that. And that was so eye-opening for me, to just, have a better baseline understanding of that. So, Mark Garcia, who runs all of our learning and development and all the curriculum, and just does an incredibly masterful job of helping people get comfortable with all of that. But yeah, so Karen has a question right now.
I think Karen's asking you, what have you learned about yourself by being a mentor through the curriculum?
Yeah, I think, and Kelly, I'd love for you to answer this as well. But while I'm talking, I would say for me, like Farah was saying earlier, being a mentor is really just about showing up. It really is just showing up. That's what you have to do, and that is the ask. You just need to be there. You need to connect with the kid where they are. You don't, like Kelly was saying, and I think it's so critical for people to understand this. They are not your child. You're not there to solve the things in their life. You're there to listen to the things that they're trying to solve in their life. You're there to listen to what's going on. You're there to, just help them establish guardrails to the degree that you know how to establish those guardrails. And when you don't, you lean on the New Pathways team to help you figure out what that should look like. But that to me is probably the biggest thing, and it's certainly, from my own personal impact, we set goals every 30 days with these kiddos. And, if you're not a goal setter yourself, I think this is just a way to get there, because you're not only responsible now for helping them achieve their goal, but you're kind of being held accountable to do that for yourself too. And I think that's really impactful. But Kelly, what are your thoughts on that question from Karen?
Oh my gosh, there's so much. First of all, I concur with everything you just said. What I've learned about myself is just, I will say this straight up. I've learned, and I'm being reminded at just sort of how privileged I am. Because this being involved in New Pathways has opened my eyes up to problems that are right in our midst, but I haven't seen them close up. And so I think that, Brian Stevenson talks in his book, Just Mercy, about being proximate. And what being a mentor at New Pathways has allowed me to do is be closer, be proximate to young people who live in poverty. I mean, that is not something that was a part of my life at all before being a mentor. And so now I have a deeper appreciation, a deeper understanding. I can sit way more in curiosity than in judgment. And that has helped me not only in like my life, but also in my world as kind of like a mother to other children and helping them to understand. We talk about New Pathways. We talked about my relationship with my mentee all the time at the dinner table. So in terms of its impact on my life, it's not just my life, it's the life of my husband and my kids. We've been able to, I think, bring my mentee into our family in ways that I did not anticipate. And it's been really meaningful. The curriculum, I can't speak to it as expertly, because again, I've only been involved for like a year and a half, but the curriculum is very clear. It's very clearly presented, and you can go deeper into it if you want to. Like there's always like recommended further reading, recommended further listening. Like there's ways, if you're a mentor, you can learn much more. But what New Pathways offers is so digestible. And it's ongoing. It's not like, oh, you do this for a weekend and good luck to you. There's always opportunities to kind of sharpen your mentorship skills over time. So I think that's important too. So it's not like a checklist. Oh, I know how to do this and I'm done. It's kind of continuous learning, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, I think that really comes back to what is the level of support that New Pathways provides for mentors. And I want to acknowledge what both of you guys said in terms of, what were your objections or what were the speed bumps that you really had to slow down for in considering whether or not mentoring was a good fit for you. First, I will say that it is a tremendous opportunity to take advantage of when it's right for you and it's the right time in your life. And, it is for a lot of people, and for a lot of people, it's not. So I appreciate that consideration. That's why we talk about these things and ask questions. And particularly, the question that you brought up, Alan, about, both of you guys, about like, how am I supposed to connect with these kids? I don't have their lived experience, or I don't share their lived experience. That was me too. But I'll also add on the fact that I had not lived their experience in poverty. So many of them also are facing racism in a systematic way, and also the adversity that they've faced in their homes. I didn't have those things. I don't have those things in common with my mentee. I was also concerned with the fact that I don't personally have kids. Actually, little inside info about me is I'm not a big kid fan, I'm like, but these are teenagers. So that's like way more fun. I remember what that was like, but I was concerned like that I didn't have the experience even working with young people. I hear from people who are considering mentoring all the time, asking, am I too old to connect with these kids? And the answer is absolutely not. It doesn't matter what your age is. It doesn't matter what your experience is with ACEs or with poverty or how long you've lived in the Valley. All that matters is that you can show up consistently and without judgment. And I know we've brought that up, like without judgment, several times. Like, what does that mean? We recognize that there's differences between one another, but the differences in the way that we might view the world or might make the decisions that we decide to make are based on what our own lived experience and context is. And so one of the things that we work with all of our mentors on the front end is acknowledging that context through which we make decisions and form opinions about the world, right? So Kelly, you talking about coming to the space to acknowledge privilege. That's definitely something that's come up for me as well. And on the other side of that, I've learned so much about how families who have lived within generations of poverty have a completely different framework of understanding when it comes to things, understanding belief and opinions, right? On when it comes to things that are just basic, like finances, education, family, housing, right? And it would be real easy for me to pass judgment for maybe the way that some people or some families might handle things versus the way that I was brought up to. But with New Pathways training, what I've come to understand is it's just a framework. And I have to be respectful and understanding and open to the reasons why people might make decisions that are different than what I would make. And we make sure that that is part of every mentor's training, because that is what is key to helping you set aside the, well, this is the way I would have done it attitude, so that you can say sometimes to your youth, like, man, that might not have been the wisest choice, what you did there, but that's fine. It doesn't define you. We can move forward. If it was my own kid who might have made a decision that I disapproved of, then like you said, Kelly, that would be a completely different conversation, right? But it's not our job as mentors to be the parent, the teacher, the police, or anything like this. All we need to do is show up, without judgment, and show our youth that they matter. Because for a lot of the kids that we serve, they might live in a home where there's maybe there's 6 people in a 1-bedroom apartment, right? And so even then you might feel like the loneliest person because you don't get the attention that you deserve, but mentors provide that. I show Marcelino every time that I spend time with him that he matters, that I care about him personally, and his future matters. He might not hear that otherwise. And so it doesn't matter what your experience is. It doesn't matter how old you are. Can you just show up and care? And if you can do that, man, you can make a huge difference in the life of a young person.
So huge. Yeah, I love the way you guys both said showing up without judgment, but with curiosity.
Yes.
Because that indicates the caring right there. The fact that you ask questions that others in their life don't care to ask, leads them to the point where they know they are cared about. Like, it's so significant to just ask questions. Why did you make that decision? What brought you to that decision? What decision would you make differently next time if you were in the same position? I love that experience. I've got the huge benefit of mentoring a twin. So I get to spend a lot of time with his twin brother. And he asked me really, really tough questions, really big questions. Last Thursday, he asked me one that, I just had to sit and ponder for a minute. I'm like, give me 1 second. I got to think about this one. And I just love that because, they just know that, that they can lean on people and they can lean on others to help them with challenges that they have.
Yeah.
Kelly, what would you say, so somebody's thinking about becoming a mentor. They're struggling with all the things that we've just talked about. As far as, so you've been in 1.5 years, you've had your mentee for 1.5 years. How do you look at it differently now from a time commitment? I mean, how did the whole dynamic of this is going to be a lot of time investment for me? How has that now shifted to whatever it is today where you're continuing this relationship beyond 1.5 years?
Well, I think prior to becoming a mentor, I thought about it as a task or as a to-do list item. I think I had a business mind for it as opposed to a relational approach. So I would say that because it's relational, I don't look at it like, oh, I have to spend X time with my mentee. Oh my gosh, it's been a week. It's been 2 weeks. I don't feel like it's not a pressure. It's not, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if that makes sense. So it's the feeling of the time is different. Now my mentee, just like a lot of teenagers in this program, she has a very unique life and she has a very unique set of circumstances, and her journey has been interesting. And there have been things that have occurred for her that are very different than what has occurred for your mentee, Alan, right? And so how she and I spend time together is somewhat relative to what's going on in her life, right? So she's had some movement, she's lived in different places, she's had some pretty major life changes. So what I have found for me is that I need to be flexible and go with the flow of this, as opposed to having like I tend to do in my rest of my life, having like this fixed, not a fixed mindset, but a mindset that's like, oh, we need to do X, Y, Z. And so this has been more like a more freeing sense of, you know what? I can text with her. I can call her. We can FaceTime. We can just go to Chipotle, and that can be enough, right? And so I've been learning how to be more relaxed in my definition of that time. I think, and that's a really good thing for me and the rest of my life too, just FYI, right? Like it's been a big teacher for me too, about just other time commitments that I have. Yeah. So I think that's been a change. The other thing I'll just mention is that when you become a mentor, one of the other cool kind of upsides is you actually go through a weekend training with other people at the same exact time. And it's a really, at least my April 2022 cohort was this fantastic, diverse group of adults. And we have this massive group text list, like group chat. And we still stay connected, and we still give shout outs to our mentees as they have milestones, when they graduate from high school, when they get their driver's license, when they, have something happen, we have this great chat that we celebrate. And so it's not just, there's other upsides to being a mentor that aren't just this great relationship that you get to have, but you also get to know other people in the Valley who are like-minded, who are trying to do this work of being a mentor. And that could open up pathways to friendships and to business connections and all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of those things. There's so many great benefits to being a mentor, but I'll add on to like exploring the Valley, getting to know other places. I mean, gosh, there's so many places that I've gone to throughout the Valley with Marcelino that I wouldn't have gone on, just myself, or maybe my husband and I probably wouldn't have gone to the aquarium, but Marcelino and I did. And so those are fun things that, those are things that have been fun for him, and also things that have been fun for me. There are things that he's interested in, like street art and stuff, that I've learned so much like from him, and I've learned so much through the curriculum. I would say that I've also made very meaningful connections with the adults in the program, because these are all like-minded community members who really want to make a difference, that have like the right principles at heart, for not just the youth that we serve, but for the community as a whole. And having a larger community of matches is a really important piece to what we do. In fact, the research behind adverse childhood experiences shows that community is a really important healing therapy. So we make a good point of cultivating that with all of our mentors, in addition to youth. So like Kelly said, there's so many different mentors that have their little cohorts. And then we actually provide a community outing that our youth and mentors, we encourage them to take part in. So we'll hop on a big old limo bus and go down to Tucson for a campus tour, maybe, or go down to or a bunch of us went recently to go roller skating. And it's cool that is a big payoff also for mentors, is to have those connections socially, and like you said, also those business connections.
Yeah, you're never doing this alone. I think that's the cool thing. You're never in this alone. And yeah, so Deja asked the question. I already touched on it, but yeah, curious, Marcelino or your mentee, Kelly, do you guys have a relationship with their families?
I do. Like Kelly touched on with her mentee, Marcelino has been through a lot, in the 6 years that we've been together. He's lived with different family members and lived in different parts of town. My relationship is with Marcelino, and we make a big point of setting that expectation with the youth, with their families, and with the mentors. That is the primary relationship. Now, of course, you're going to have a logistical relationship probably at the very beginning, like, yeah, so I'll be picking up Marcelino for such and such at 2, right? That kind of thing. But over the years, I've had so many what I call parking lot conversations. And these are just the times where I've had a chance to chat with, his uncle or with his dad out in the parking lot. And I've learned so much about Marcelino's background from their points of view. And I've learned so much about the family's backgrounds. And what I will say is that the families of the youth, or the caregivers of the youth in this program, they want their kids in this program. They realize that mentors provide a certain level of support that they might not be able to provide because they're limited time and resources, having limited time and resources, living in poverty. So I've gotten to know the family in that respect, but also I've really gotten to understand how it is that Marcelino's landed where he is, generationally speaking, because I've learned so much about what his dad and his mom's upbringing was, and their grandparents. And so it's really connected a lot of dots for me. But to answer your question, the relationship with the family is friendly, but not deep.
In my case, I would say the relationship with the family is non-existent. I wouldn't be able to recognize any of my mentees' family members. If they walked into my place right now, I wouldn't know who they were. So my relationship is very much with my mentee alone. I think probably all teenagers complain about their family. And one of the key things that's been an ongoing feature of my relationship with my mentee is she definitely tells me what she thinks about her father and her mother and her siblings. And, she is not one to hold back her feelings. And so, I also believe I probably believe about half of what she says is probably 100% true. I'm sure there's lots of room for interpretation about these things that happen. But, like Farah said, my relationship is really with my mentee specifically. And I try to make sure she remembers that I'm there for her. I am on her team alone. And I want what's best for her. So, that's how it is for us. I know it's different for others. My mentee happened to be kind of living apart from her family when we met. And so, that's just been a feature of our particular relationship. What about you, Alan?
No, mine is very different. Like you said, it's very, very different. I'm super close with mom, super close with his brothers. He's got a little brother and then a twin, like I said. I know his uncle pretty well. But yeah, even this weekend I was over there, he's failing creative writing. And I said, dude, with me as your mentor, that is not acceptable. It's not acceptable. And even his mom was like, he writes, how is this happening? He's a writer. Lean on your mentor. So that was, that was kind of an interesting, funny moment this weekend. I'm like, well, you can consider that the only time you're going to have an F in that class, because that's not happening for much longer. But yeah, it was kind of funny because even mom knew, with him as your mentor, this is not okay.
I love it.
Yeah. So that'll get solved. But yeah, we're pretty close. I would say mom calls me in for support when she needs it. And
that's great.
She knows that she's got it.
That's great. I think that shows, Alan, I think that shows that with these R3 experiences, they're different.
They're all different.
And you don't know, as when you go in to become a mentor, it's kind of like Christmas morning. You don't know what the relationship's going to be. You don't know who that person's going to be. And I guarantee it's going to be the right person. You're going to be paired with the right person, and you're going to learn a lot from the relationship. Hearing Alan, I get a slight feelings of jealousy that you have this close relationship. I'm like, oh, what would that be like? But that's not my mentee's life. There's a high level of dysfunction in her family, and lots of ACEs, like Farah mentioned. And so it's probably for the best that, my relationship is very singular and just with my mentee. And it's probably great, Alan, in your situation, that it's robust and you've got that relationship with mom and an uncle and the brothers. That's fantastic. I just think it's going to be different for everybody.
Yeah, I think you're really hitting on something that comes up for a lot of mentors after they're matched, is how am I doing with this? Am I doing it right? When I compare myself to Kelly or compare myself to Ellen, how am I ranking up? You can't compare yourself to other people, because you are an individual. Your youth is an individual, and that dynamic between the two of you is unique. But what the three of us have in common is that we all have a program coordinator through New Pathways for the Youth. And for those of you who might not know what we mean by program coordinator, this is a person in our organization whose dedicated role is to support all dynamics of the relationship. So they will support the youth by helping them to map out a year-long goal plan with assistance of your mentor. But that helps us to keep the youth on track to reach their goals. And then I consider my program coordinator to be my mentor, right? And so she coaches me through situations that might be ubiquitous to all mentoring, but it might be very specific to what's going on with Marcelino, his family, or with me. And then the third thing is that our families have support through our program coordinators. So whether or not you've got a close relationship with the family like Alan, or if it's kind of non-existent like Kelly, those families nonetheless are getting what they need, because our program coordinators provide one-to-one coaching for them. And also make sure that if the family is in need for some resource, like if there's a lack of food or if there's some kind of housing insecurity, we have those resources to make sure that those gaps are filled. So it never lands on the mentor to have to care for the family. Again, our top priority is just making sure that our youth know that they matter and they have someone that they can turn to.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Farah, can you share with those that are joining us what it takes to become a mentor? Like what do they need to do?
Yeah, so the screening requirements are pretty basic. If I didn't mention it already, we work with teenagers. So the kids come into the program between 13 and 17, and then we actually support youth and mentors through the age of 20, until the youth turn 21. So in that case, you can imagine that we don't want to have any mentors that are younger than 21. So at a minimum, you've got to be 21 years or older. And then you do provide transportation for your youth. Most of them do not have their own wheels. So we want to make sure that you have that you've got a safe and reliable personal vehicle with all the valid documents that go along with that. Because we're working with minors, you can betcha that we're going to do all of our due diligence to check with references and to do case searches here internally. And then the only hard cost to becoming a mentor is to obtain a fingerprint clearance card through the state. Some people already have fingerprint clearance cards. There's a whole myriad of different types. So if you've got one already, we'll just need to check and make sure that it meets our qualifications, but it's real easy to do. So those are the only things those are the boxes that really have to be checked. The thing that's not on here is principle alignment with New Pathways for Youth. And some of our guiding principles are responsibility, relationships, integrity, but then also inclusion is a big part of, is a major principle that we make sure we weave throughout our entire program. So it's very important to us that all of our mentors have an open mind and an open heart to providing love and support, even if our youth come from different backgrounds, economically, from their experiences, but also in terms of their race or ethnicity, religion, and sexual orientation or identity. So those are all important things to keep in mind too.
Oh, that's perfect. And then how do people get connected to you, Farah? How do they reach out to you? How do they connect
Sure.
to become a mentor?
So if anybody that is watching the live stream is curious, or if you feel inspired, the first thing that you want to do is you want to sign up to attend a mentor information session. And we host 2 every single week. They're standing. So there's one that's at 6:15 on Tuesdays, and then we do another one at noon. If you scan this QR code, it'll take you directly to our scheduler, so you can sign up for whatever session works the best for you. And what you'll learn in the mentor intro is we'll tell you more about the kids, specifically the kids that we serve. We'll talk more about how they get involved in the program. We'll talk more about we'll talk more about the scientific approach that we take to providing trauma-informed care for our kids. And of course, we'll tell you all of the details that you would need to know for making the decision if becoming a mentor, a level up mentor through New Pathways for Youth is a good fit for you.
So Farah, I've got to ask, because you don't have the end time here, for people like me who are type A, need to know how long of a time commitment this is. How long are these intros?
That is great. Yes. So we ask all of our mentors to come in with the expectation that they're going to be matched with their youth for at least 1 year.
No. How long is the intro? 6:15 to what? Is it half an hour?
The intro is 1 hour. It is 1 hour, and that's enough to cover all the details. And then if you have questions afterwards, then we've got time for Q&A as well.
Another question for you. So is it just like one-on-one? Like if I show up on the Zoom, is it just you and me, Farah, or am I in a group? Can I have my camera off and be eating my lunch?
You know what? So honestly, sometimes it could be one-on-one. We normally have a pretty good showing of anywhere from 5 to 12 people that'll show up for one of our mentor intro sessions. As a presenter, yes, it is so helpful if you do have your camera on, but we also understand people have got things going on and you might want to have your camera off. That's totally fine too. Okay. But yeah, did I leave out an answer there, Kelly?
No, I just want to know because I'm just, I know there's other type A people out there like me who'd be like, how long is it on Tuesday evening? When can I have my dinner?
Yeah, no, it is 1 hour. And if you want to have your dinner with me on screen, that's more than appropriate. Totally fine. Usually by the time I get to an end of one of those mentor info sessions on Tuesdays, I mean, my parting line is usually, well, I've got a lean cuisine with my name on it.
That's great.
Yeah.
That is great. No, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, but I love talking about this program. I'm so passionate about the program. And Kelly, I remember when you were first exploring becoming a mentor, just how pleased I was with like your open heart and your, giving spirit. And you've become such an amazing mentor and ambassador. And Alan, you've been an amazing mentor and ambassador for the program. And we appreciate you guys. And we appreciate all the wonderful people in your network that support us as a result of your advocacy. So thank you to the two of you. Thanks for that.
Most definitely. Glad to do it. And I really appreciate Kelly and Farah, you guys doing this today and getting the word out. Let's see if we can recruit some mentors and get some more great folks to help out our kiddos locally.
Let's do it.
Be a mentor.
Be a mentor. Exactly. Well, reach out to myself and Kelly are on LinkedIn as well. If you have any questions or need any more information, do not hesitate. There's our contact info. Reach out anytime to any of the three of us. We'll be more than happy to share our insights and perspectives, and happy to help you get connected. Thank you all very much for being here.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye, everyone.